let's talk about circles. Circles are an amazing shape. Sometimes it may get confusing because circles introduce this term called pi. The value of pi in simple terms is 3.14, and you can keep going on, but I'm just going to leave it right now at 3.14. And so now let's take this and talk about the area of a circle. Move over here. So now, when you have a circle here, right, and you think of the area of a circle, I'm just going to tell you what the formula is. It's pi r squared. And how are you supposed to remember that? Except through memorization. Well, I'm going to explain to you a way to remember why this makes sense, why pi r squared makes sense, and really, in some ways, what pi represents. So remember, we're using 3.14, and it keeps on going almost forever. You can keep calculating pi, but for the purpose of this, let's just talk about pi r squared. Okay, so let's draw another circle here, right? So here's a circle, and you know some of the characteristics of a circle is there is a center, and there's something called a radius, right? So this is a radius, and if you go all the way across, this is called the diameter, okay? Or diameter equals to 2r, because you have a radius from one side to the middle, and the radius to the other side to the middle. And then the same thing you could do for, vertically, right? In fact, you could go diagonal, you can all directions. The radius is always the same from the center to the side. It's always equal. These are all equal distances. And the diameters, therefore, are all the same, 2r. So now, let's draw a box around a square around the circle. All right, so what you notice here is I just drew a square around the circle. And if I looked at what is the dimensions of this square, well, the diameter of this circle, which touches the edges of the square, is r plus r, which is 2r. So this side is 2r, right? And this side is 2r. And you know the formula for a square is length times width, which in this case, the length and width are the same. So the area of this square is equal to 2r times 2r, which equals to 4r squared, units squared. Just write that in so it's consistent. But if you notice, it's 4r squared. 2r times 2r is 4r squared. Okay, so this whole square is 4r. And you think, okay, then what's the formula of this circle? It's not 4r squared, right? And it's not 4r squared. And you start remembering it's got to be less than 4r squared because these regions here are not part of the circle, right? And if you did some calculations and measurements, you could figure out the area of this circle is not 4r squared, it's a little less. It's 3.14 ... r squared. So instead of 4r squared, 4 times by r squared, it's only 3.14 times r squared, slightly less, because these areas here are not part of the circle, so it's slightly less. And this value is called shape of a pi, It's called pi r squared. All right, so that's one way to sort of remember it, is it's almost like a square with sides 2r and 2r, 4r squared, but slightly less, and it's only 3.14, or this pi r squared. So that's one way to think about it, and you start seeing the relationship of of pi 3.14 to the dimensions of a square. Okay, so then if you want to take this a little further, and this is not something necessarily they teach you in these classes about area of circles, but something you start just thinking about is, okay, so that means the area of this space outside the circle is actually 4r squared minus 3.14 r squared, which means the area of that other space is 4 and I'll just use pi r squared, right? So 4 minus pi, or 3.14 r squared, is this space here, right? And then the space inside is pi r squared. So that's in one way. If you're trying to remember what's the area of a circle, just think that the circle is within a square, and therefore the square's dimensions are the same as the diameter, or 2r, right? This square's dimensions is 4r squared, and I know the area of the circle is slightly less than the area of the square because the circle leaves these empty spaces, and so it's got to be less than 4, so it's around 3 something, right? And the shape of this is like a pie, right? It's like an apple pie, so it's not 4r squared, but it's pi r squared. Pi is 3.14, right? If this was like, if you thought pi was 5, it really wouldn't make any sense, because then that area of the circle would be greater than the area of the rectangle, of the square, which doesn't make sense because the circle is contained within the square. So that's one way to think about, how do I remember the area of a circle? The circle is within the square. The square has dimensions that are, the sides of the square are equal to the diameter of the circle it contains, or 2r. So that means the area of the square is 4r squared. Okay, so now I know the formula of the circle has got to be less than 4r squared because it fits in this space, and it's close to it because these are very small regions in the corner. And then just remember, it's 3.14, or basically it's pi r squared, because the pi fits in there. But it makes sense that it's pi because it's a number around pi because of this, just slightly smaller than 4. This is not a complete explanation, but it's a good way to sort of just remember. And then eventually you'll remember it's just pi r squared. But it's also good to understand, what does pi represent? And how does that relate to the circle and the square relationship? And as you get more and more into this, it'll get beyond memorization. You start thinking about what this means. And as you go into more in-depth math classes, you'll learn more about pi and how someone came up with this measurement of pi, which is so helpful in math and in many other aspects, and it captures the beauty of the circle. All right, hopefully that was helpful for you. Math is fun, step by step. It's not just about memorization. Memorization helps so you can calculate faster, but then it also gives you time to think about what is really going on. when I'm doing my calculations. All right, enjoy math, and we'll talk to you next time. If you like this video, please like it and please subscribe so that you get alerted when I share my next video. Thanks so much.